Hey, everybody.
Hey, Miles.
How's it going?
Going good.
All right. All right. Let me see what we got here.
What files do you need us to zip together? It's the FBX file, the Blender file.
Yeah, I would basically put it all in there. That way, well, we can talk about that too. I mean, I think that,
You want our final renders files too?
yeah, I'd throw it all in there because one of the things we're starting to work with is how do you keep track of all this junk, because you've got so much stuff. And it really is kind of one of those ongoing problems or questions that keeps coming up over the course of your life. It's like I think it's a really good idea to basically have a project folder where you've got
So you want me to zip you
all
my
that.
project folder?
Yeah, just put that but include the renders.
Oh, that's all in there.
Yeah, cool, perfect. Yeah, that way you've got it, and that way that becomes kind of this little island. So there aren't any files that you need outside of that folder. That's kind of the
I
ideal.
I found the pack all into .blend option, so I did that. So would that work?
I think that'll work fine, Mike. Yeah,
Cool.
that should work fine.
I
Yeah.
also did the same thing, so I was wondering
Cool.
about that too.
Yeah, I think the trick is as long as it works, it works. And then the only other thing I would add to that is to include the renders. You don't have to because we have the presentation, but like I think actually that's a good part of it is to include, like, make a folder. You can have that packed Blender file if that works, and then have the renders in there in a separate folder or something. That way you've got all that stuff together. Because like I was saying, like 9 times out of 10, when you're going to show your work that you've done in 3D, people don't actually want the 3D file. I'm just saying it's cool. We have it. It's good. But like most of the time they're going to want to see a render. So it's really important, I think, to have those renders in there. If that makes sense. So it's less about kind of what I need. Like I'm really going off of the presentations, but like I want to have that. But I kind of want to just get us in the habit of thinking through these things. Like, well, what do I want? As the maker. So like a year from now, if you want to go back into this project and grab some stuff out of there, you've got it. So this is a good way to start thinking about that. Cool. Man, I've been running around like an idiot all day, like going to meetings, and so I'm just gonna kind of like take a second and kind of, okay, I'm here.
That's
And I'm
not
here.
running around like an idiot. That's running with your chicken head cut off.
If only I had a chicken head to cut off, right? Yeah. Exactly.
You'd still be running.
Right. Still be running. All righty. Yeah, so let's check it out. I know that yeah, some people had some issues with getting stuff turned in, so that's okay. Like we're in this, like I said, we're in this for the long haul. If everything didn't come together by 1:30 today, it's okay. We'll get you across the finish line with this, so it's all right. But let's see what we got so far. So what do we got here? Whoopsie daisy. And I think we were going to look at the presentations. So no worries, Andrew. We're just kind of getting rolling here. All right, cool. Yeah, so we'll just jump in and see what we got. Actually, I'll let you guys screen share and take over this show. Okay. So whoever wants to go first.
Can I go first?
I
don't know how long I have a quiet room, so.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay. Let me just get to my first slide. There you go. So I didn't really do anything fancy per se, but here we go. Oh, so we're gonna go into my beauty shots or my final renders. Here is the what's you get shot. The color palette I started with, but I did edit it to have it. It has been composited, but not fully composited. Final shot with title and extra assets. I actually added a little ghost in, played around with making a satin
Cool.
like texture. I'm going to talk about this at the end of my presentation, but this is all composited together because I basically made, well, if you see, collaging fun materials. Here are the 4 materials that I spent the most time on, plus the concrete's also on the floor. We're going to go into the sky nodes. So I feel like everyone knows that you can edit your worldview. To be specifically able to do this, you have to actually enable the use of nodes for the world, as you can see right here.
That's cool. So that's a whole other tab. That again, this is something that I found really kind of weird about Blender. I mean, the way that it's this tab. I guess it makes sense, but I was always like, I'm surprised at how often I find myself looking around for something and it's under that world tab. So there's a setting there that's kind of like stuff having to do with the world. It's odd. So anyway, and you've got the nodes enabled, and that's that big button there. Cool. All right. Well, that's great.
Yeah, I was working on a new project, and I actually had to go back to the screenshot because it's like, oh, why is my world not working? And you had to remember to enable the use of nodes.
Yeah.
Rusty orb. This is one of my favorite ones. It's a great example of color ramps are your friends. Because really the different I forget, people can't see my finger. The differentiation between like the metal and like the rusty part is all just color ramps. So this section right here is basically telling you what is metal, what is the inside of like the rust, and then this is for like the texture. And then learning that you can double up on textures to create a more fine texture. It's really nice. Anyway.
Nice.
Using the same noise texture for both base color and normal bump.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm just thinking like down the line, Mashaya, these are great, you know, and I think I might throw just that kind of a still of just one of the rusty orb sphere or something up there so we would know what that is.
Oh, yeah.
And then maybe even have some notes like you're saying about, oh, here's where I do, and we talked about this, but I think that'd be cool for down the line because I think these are really useful. I mean, these are great little captures of your process. I mean, so I think this is extremely helpful. And like saying, oh, this is where the rust is set. This is where the shiny surface is set. This is how they're mixed together. Just some notes like that. These are great. So anyway, yeah, just, you know, as you roll around, those are awesome.
Yeah. Now we're going on to the textured metal. Basically, I took the ideas from this one and just followed this path without adding, well, I added a color ramp just for like differentiation. So it's a little bit changed, but like I essentially use the same concept from this one to get the metal texture without the rust part to do the metal for the, actually what's highlighted up there. Oh yeah. Next one. The concrete's probably the most complicated one. It's really like trying to get the color, which is here, but also using moose grave and noise texture. So the moose, like this part right here, creates all the cracks. So when you look at here, this is all moose grave. And then you use a color ramp so that the other texture, the noise texture, basically creates the nice thin cracks versus like wide chasms. And Yeah, but instead of using I can't remember what this originally, because like you have to actually click on difference, but oh wait, add. So you basically add the add one and switch it to difference, and so that you get the nice concrete. Also, you can affect gradients. So these two colors show up on the concrete. So instead of having black and white, you choose like a grayer tone. But sometimes it doesn't affect color at all. For example, this color ramp doesn't affect the color, but this one does. But this one's really more for a height difference versus the base color.
Cool.
And yeah, this is more of the texture. It's really fun. I really recommend Node Wrangler because as you can see, you have to do these commands really often.
Right. And Node
So
Wrangler
just-
is an add-on, right?
Oh, it is. And
It's already
really
built
simple.
in. Is it built in or is it download?
It is built in. You just have to enable it.
Do it.
Okay, Squirmy Glow. I wrote this at very late. That's why I spelled that. The first one I did, it's super simple. Like you have the same like principal BSDF, and then you really just add a color mix shader with an emission, and then adding the texture of a mix of Voronoi and Moosegrave. So the Voronoi creates like, I've demonstrated this before, it creates like a sunspot effect, and then the Moosegrave takes those sunspots and swirls them according to what the color map tells it. And then really what this does is make it so it's consistent no matter what you put it on. So like the windows versus the prism in the middle of my scene. This makes sure that everything stays consistent and doesn't like bug out. The cloud, it's really just switching your principal BDSF to a principal volume.
And this is on the world tab?
No, this is still object.
Okay.
Because the cloud itself is an object.
Okay.
And the color ramp, basically, a lot of what happens in the cloud happens right here in this like noise texture. Like the scale, detail, distortion, this is all extremely important. And then the multiply basically allows you to bump up the detail, bump up the scale, bump up the distortion and the color ramp properties, because the color ramp creates like the breaks in the clouds. I would also probably look into different tutorials or like not necessarily use mine if you want anything more than just like a mist.
Sure.
Because mine did not come out looking like solid clouds, which maybe I just need to mess around with these a little bit more, but anyway.
Cool.
Organization, here is my organization of my scene, or really lack of it. I have some organization, but ultimately these are just like classifying the buildings so I know which group of buildings I'm talking about. And then I keep these ones that I constantly turn on and off out of the groups. Anyway. Scene layout. So this is what you look from the camera view. It's the solid view, but this is what it looks like in the wire view from above. I think I have a better one. Yeah, there you go. When you look at it from above, it doesn't look right. But when you go back here, it looks perfectly fine, or any of my renders. So I guess just showing that sometimes it doesn't have to look right to be right. Render settings. So I thought it was just cool to show what I rendered all my things at least my final ones. Really the biggest change is how many of the render tiles I did. Compositing, so I put everything into Photoshop, edited that way. That's how I got to the night sky stuff. Kind of showed it already. Here is my final shot, which, again, it'll get to the end of the presentation, but like this is a different asset, this is a different asset, this window is a different asset, the background is quite literally this shot. Poncho Man, which is really just the ghost man, but for the most time he looks like a poncho man because this is what he looks like before you put any smoothing. I thought he looked kind of funny. It reminded me of like with those like clear ponchos you put on when you're in the rain. So adding smoothing, but here's the problem. Like whenever you're working with cloth, you have to like add a bunch of collision modifiers. And so there's a collision modifier on the person and not yet on the ground, because as you can see, the cloth kind of clips. Or does it? I don't remember. But at one point, the cloth would just clip through the floor. So you actually need a collision modifier on the person, ground, and on the cloth itself, except for the collision modifier is in the fabric modifier. So you just have to click settings so that the fabric recognizes itself. Because right here it's clipping through itself, right here it's not. Really fun. And then there's another modifier within the clothing modifier, which allows you to essentially, it's not within the clothing modifier, it's within the collision modifier of the person. You basically create a bigger box around the person, which allows you to have the head not clip through. And then this is how I set up my lighting, and I found it was easy with split screening. I was moving the camera here so I could see where the camera moved down here. Fun stuff. Now we're going into the long line of renders I did. Beginning render, I think it looks cool, but it's missing light, textures, all the fun stuff. Light, textures, the cloud. I messed around with this color scheme, but decided I was not going to do that. Added more textures. Composited it. Here is the beginning. There's no transparency. This is just Blender. Still no transparency, but we got some lighting. We got really just some lighting and textures. Now we have transparency, really fun. Turn down the lighting. Was trying to more get the mood of the shot I was going for. Really nice backlighting right there. Moving it so that it made more sense for my scene. Still have transparency. Adding even more lighting because it's fun. And then compositing. Well, combining. I combined all these shots to make my final one. And that is the end.
Cool. Nice one. Yeah, well, let's get some feedback.
I feel like I should have went first. Not to get overrun by people.
It's very impressive.
Honestly, same.
Sure, yeah. The compositing is very impressive. I think I just straight up would not have thought of that, and didn't. But the having two renders and then just compositing them together.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I could have done with less slides because at the end I had 41, which then I realized I had 41 while presenting and decided I should just talk faster.
That's great. There's a lot of good information in there. Yeah. What else? Other feedback?
I think your attention to detail is really amazing too. I just love looking into the shot of just your city and seeing all the different pieces to it. It really shows how dedicated you are to the project.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really like the fact that you showed us the layout from different angles and then as well as the composited shot, because that's kind of where you're showing us the secret tricks, of how you got that shot to look the way it does. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think how you get to I don't really consider my work super detailed because I don't know. I could think of more detailed shots, but how I think of framing shots is first in shapes, and you go from shapes into smaller shapes and smaller shapes and smaller shapes until you get what you're looking for. Because you need the big shapes to look nice together to get the small shapes to look nice together.
Cool. Any other feedback? Other stuff? And just to remind you guys, you have access to these on the Figma, so it's cool. So you can check these out later, which I'd really recommend for looking at things like node setups, and there's a lot you can kind of learn from this just by going back into that presentation. So you can try some stuff out on your own, and then you can kind of go, and then if you have a question about it, then you can say, hey, Mishaya, how'd you do that? After you looked at it already, and then you might have, it helps kind of narrow the question down a lot of times. And that's what I think is one of the great things about documenting your process, is that it helps to narrow down the question. Like, I think where you had the render settings captured there, I thought that was great, because that can be kind of, if you're working on a team and someone's like, what are your render settings? Like, well, ours aren't working right. And then you can kind of look at it. Okay. It was like some weird little micro thing got turned on that, it takes you like a long time to find out otherwise. So yeah. Cool. Yeah, but really solid presentation there. I mean, that was great, and lots of good information in it. So very cool.
Thank
Nice.
you.
All right. Well, thanks, Mashaya. That's great. Well, who's next?
Can I go?
Yeah. Max. Was that Max going next?
Yep, let me
Okay.
share real quick. Alrighty.
Cool.
So I guess mine is going to be a little bit different. I was focusing mostly on like a large scale vista kind of deal. And I wanted to figure out a way to create like a cityscape and show the scale and like a key feature so that the environment can show like the scale of it and everything. So clearly I have like this environment will be scaled up a bit so that it's not as small, but I have the other asset, which is going to be more of a Coliseum thing. And I had to watch a bunch of like your tutorials over again, Miles, about like the boolean and everything. My focus isn't on 3D, so I was just trying to practice the basics with this one. And I also really, because I was just kind of playing around before this project, so I as soon as I saw Miles's tutorial, like the one with the weight paint, I was super inspired by that. So I definitely wanted to try that one out. So this is what the final Coliseum is. And it's just more of a piece to be able to show the scale of it. So then I just went in, started doing weight paint, and had more of just like little squares to show houses. And then this is top down of what that ended up looking like. And then this is kind of what one of the sides of the cityscape would look like, kind of surrounding a Coliseum or something. Also, something I just want to mention real quick is that I couldn't render this because no matter how far I moved the camera out, it was just too big. Like, I don't know if I should change the rendering, but just even if I pulled the camera out, it would show weird angles and stuff. Since like a person is like the size of one of the houses, so I don't know. Something I'll have to figure out, but so that's why I took screenshots. So
Did you get the render wall?
yes, I think that's what it was or something.
Did you move the camera backwards, or did you actually mess with the camera focal lengths?
I did both.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely something I'm not experienced in, so I'll definitely have to actually figure that one out.
That'd be something we could play with. I'm sure we can get that to work.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Anyways, so a little bit closer to get a different kind of vantage point. And then this is the front, still using the Coliseum to kind of give a scale for like the quote unquote city, and a different angle. And then, yeah, I definitely, wanted to create like more of a vistascape instead of focusing on like more subtle details. But I think in the future, after playing with this, I might actually go in and work on more of a detailed piece after this to try to refine it. But
cool. Well,
yeah.
That's great. Where is your camera set up in the scene?
I just moved it out of the way, but I tried to move it like literally where I am, and it wouldn't like capture it. So yeah.
Probably could have been easier just to do a screenshot.
Yeah, the other thing is I'm sure if I scaled this down a lot, it would have captured it better, but
Yeah, that would work.
Try this. Try if you're from right there, hit Control Alt Numpad 0.
Oh, yeah, this is definitely a screenshot. So
but from Blender that would be right. You're not.
Yeah.
It was so convincing. I thought you were in Blender. But there's a way that you can convert
Let me write
place a
this.
camera at your current view. So that's Control Alt Numpad 0. So that's something to try when you get back into Blender. Because a lot of times it's the positioning, and when you're trying to position from within the camera view, it's not that great when you're trying to do huge moves like this. And so I think you're better off kind of either just using the properties panel to position the camera roughly where you want it, or using something like that Control Numpad 0. I'm trying to remember if there's a menu shortcut for it.
Yeah, because I mean, I was just moving it around manually and then like kind of changing the scale of it and trying to do other things. I don't know if you can change the render distance on Blender because like half this mountain is kind of
That's the
gone.
clipping. So that is something we can talk about.
Oh, I actually am messing around with my own renders. You can actually, if you go into the renders, oh wait, you're not on Blender.
I am. I would like to hear this, please.
If you go into render settings, there is actually, you can set at what distance it renders to.
Yeah.
Kind of like when you're playing video games and you can basically set the screen from showing everything to like barely anything.
All right, so this is actually Blender.
Sweet. So you're gonna go
we don't believe you.
layout. Just go to like somewhere you can actually access. Go to layout. It's probably easier that way.
Yeah.
Now I'll have to move the thing. Now go to the camera icon on the far right.
Well, let me move you guys out of the way. Let's see. So this.
No. In the actual like Blender settings. So
it's not there. You have to select the camera.
Yeah, select the camera, and then it would be a green camera down on the bottom right where all the like, yeah. So go down, and there's a green camera.
Okay, this one, and then.
Well, I was actually thinking of a different way, but you can do it this way, I think, too.
Sure.
The way I was talking about, it actually shows up in the render.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to the render settings, which is also a camera, it's the back of a DSLR.
Okay. I mean,
It's
the one right above the printer.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And then you need to go to, I think it's film. I think I saw it in film. I will say I had basically all of my things open by the time I found it. But, oh, fancy. Sorry, that was my dog. She's perfectly fine. She's just lonely.
You're gonna have to show us the dog after your presentation.
One thing I do want to say is that we do have a lot of people that need to present today. So
yeah,
I definitely will take notes, but I'm here.
I'll show you in a screenshot I'll put on Discord.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you guys. I'll definitely check it out.
But just while we're here, go back to the green camera for a second, because this is the one that will stop. This is clipping. So right there, right below that, it says clip start and end. That's showing you the length before it clips. So it's going to clip at 100 meters right now. The ending is set to 100 meters.
Okay.
So if you set that back to like, 10,000 or
gotcha,
or whatever, I mean, that way it won't clip where you don't want it to clip. So yeah, and I would, if you move the camera back, it won't be clipping that artificially. So anyway, that's something. And then I think what you're talking about as well is if you're, depending on the tool you're using to move back, you'll get lens distortion. So that might be where you just need to change the location of the camera, make sure that you're actually changing the location of the camera.
Yeah.
But you'll get it.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Max.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Very cool. All right. Who's next?
I could go next. Okay, I will just unmute because I cannot hold space while I'm screen sharing. One sec.
Aha.
I just realized you can unmute with space.
Yeah. And if you're currently unmuted, it mutes. Can you see the right screen? Can you see the
Pixel building kit?
but can you see the presentation open?
It looks like it. Oh, maybe not. Maybe we're just on the. Well, go to the next.
Because it opened a new window.
Oh, okay.
So I will hold on. There we go. That look like it works?
I think that's it. It says it's in Firefox. It says Pixel Building Kit.
Yeah, are we in full screen?
I still see the Firefox bar at the top.
Yeah, the address.
Okay. But just the address bar?
Yeah, just the address bar.
Okay,
Yeah.
If the presentation takes up the whole screen, that's
All right.
What I'm going for.
Cool. Yeah, looks good.
And I will be switching back and forth to Blender,
Nice.
so I can move around and show
Okay.
stuff. So this is the project I was working on, which you may notice isn't a pixel building kit. And the reason for that is, as I believe I mentioned at one point, I did switch projects halfway through because I realized that what I actually want to focus on is like UV mapping and textures, and this was going to be a pain to texture. So instead, hold on, I made this, which is a, it is sort of like retro RPG styled, and this, what I have completed is basically the bare minimum to make a building, because, and this is something I already knew from working in pixel art, so it is a lesson I took with me to this project. Making anything substantial in pixel art takes a lot of parts. Like this is 11 distinct parts, not counting the ground texture, and that is just to make a building with no windows, one floor, and a big hole in the middle of the roof, because I only made exterior roof tiles, which is also why I don't have a proper render, because if I were to render this, I would want to have like a whole little RPG village, and that would take so many more tiles. So the my process here is I found a very good tutorial on how to do pixel perfect textures for, and you can see from these like examples, and I can actually switch, hold on, switch over to paint.net. And you can see this, so this is the palette I used, by the way. A site called LowSpec has a lot of really good pixel art palettes. I've used it before for pixel art. So you can see this is the very simplest texture that isn't just a single flat texture. It is the wall. So you've got the front of the wall, the back of the wall, two textures that are always hidden, so I didn't bother to do them, and the sides. And this is just a rectangular prism. This is the lower side of the door frame. This model was a mess. So you can sort of see as the models get more complicated, I start caring less, just in terms of making them look coherent. But obviously that isn't really, you don't really need it to look coherent. You just need the model to look good. Here's my scene collection. I gave everything like a very specific name with a very specific format, so everything that was part of the same bit was right next to each other in the scene collection, and I did the same for the materials and textures. And here is, like I said, sort of the bare minimum for a building. This is more or less the most complex thing you can make with these parts, but I want to continue working on these in the future, and as I said, eventually sort of make a whole RPG village. And if I switch over now to Blender, I forgot what I was going to show you in Blender that I hadn't already shown you in the presentation. So I guess other than just sort of taking a look around, there isn't really a point to going to Blender. But this is sort of my workspace. I've got the over here the window so I can look at what's happening as I edit textures and stuff, and over here the UV mapping, and over here there's two add-ons that I got. Sprite Tile, which has a very useful utility where it automatically reloads textures, so that cuts down a lot of clicks while you're doing this sort of small-scale texture editing. And Texel Density Checker, which sort of automatically fits all your textures to the right size. And as you can see, I've actually, the grid is subdivided into 16 instead of 10 for this project.
Nice.
So the Texel Density Checker add-on does some of the UV stuff automatically, but it doesn't do it perfectly. There was a lot of tweaking I had to do to make everything pixel perfect.
Cool. Thanks, Maya. Well, how about some feedback?
That looks
Your
really
work is just so cute and beautiful. I absolutely love it.
Thank you.
Like, oh my god, like the way you like create this texture, like, is so cool. And your organization, oh my god.
Thank you very much.
I'd love to see you make a bigger city out of your pixel art. That would
Yeah,
be
I
so cool to
definitely
see.
intend to do something like that. A funny anecdote. The grass texture, obviously, or the grass model, obviously, because it's literally just a 2-unit wide plane, was obviously the easiest of the models to do. It was ignoring the fact that getting everything lined up onto the UV maps was a pain. With just the pixel art, it was the most annoying texture to do because I am bad at spriting grass. Because with grass, it's a lot of noisy detail in real life, which you cannot accurately depict in pixel art, or it just turns into a noisy mess. And it has to look good from whatever angle you're using, and it looks different from every angle. So the way it is now, which is just sort of a flat color with like tufts, eventually that's just what I got to. But it was spriting grass has always been like my bane.
Cool. Yeah, looks good. I mean, I think great and really nice presentation. I'm going to encourage everybody to, and go back because these presentations are live. Basically, you can go back and edit them because they're just a link to whatever your current state of it is. But I'd really recommend that people go back and add kind of what we call like I don't know what we call it, but a bibliography, but of any kind of add-ons you're using, the sites you're going to, because I thought you had a bunch of really interesting resources there. And so think about capturing that stuff in a way that people can refer to it, and that you can refer to it later. Because a lot of times I just like out of sight, out of mind for me. And I've appreciated my past self for going in and doing that little bit of bibliography work. We'll have to come up with a better term for bibliography.
I got most of my information from like I mentioned, a very good video on this, and I will put a link to
link
that
it all
in
in
my
there. That's
presentation.
awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
A works cited page.
Yeah, works cited. I like it. Yeah, that way it's a useful resource for others, because I think we're always on the prowl for these kind of tutorials and stuff. So cool. All right. Well, who's next? Keep it rolling here.
I can go.
Okay, Emily.
Let's see if I can get this set up. Is that working? I think so.
Oh, nice.
So I made a kit that allows you to like sort of make your own like neighborhood street. And that's not, there we go. So I started by like making a single house, sort of, because I wanted it, like, I thought it would be interesting to make like a lot of individual houses, but then I'm like, I thought it would be interesting if the person with the kit was allowed to customize what their house ended up looking like. So I split them in half and added a middle piece. So you can sort of make whatever house size you want. And then I took the top half of this like 2-story house to make the 1-story version of it. So you can make the 1-story houses as well. And like you can see at the bottom, there are some examples of those. And like this is just like a normal like smaller house, and then a slightly bigger one. And then like I guess this could be like a apartment complex or something. And then so this is sort of an overview of all the different pieces, and the like assembled houses could be considered pieces as well, if that's how you want to use it. And yes, these are the different segments. And then I made like a simple street and sidewalk piece. And then I sort of put them all in a different street and using like some array modifiers and things. And here are different angles. And then here are some renders of, I guess, what it would look like from like, I tried to make it look like you were like to scale, but I'm not sure if that came across, and this is with a different lighting.
Cool. You know, one thing with scale,
yeah.
what you're saying, just to jump in for just 1 second, is that I think a lot of times the default for the camera is a 50 millimeter camera. And I think a lot of times I've gotten a more satisfactory kind of human eye view by going to like a 35 or a 30 or 28 or something, by lowering that millimeter size. We'll experiment with that, because this tends to flatten things out a little bit, so it can be kind of frustrating when you're trying to convey scale, something like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool.
So that's about all I have in terms of the presentation.
Yeah, nice. Cool. Well, let's have some feedback.
I think it's pretty darn great, just because, I mean, even if you rotated the houses, like the single ones, and had like the shingling facing outwards, that would be a totally different house too. So this like just creates so many different options, but I mean, you put in a lot of work, but in the end, if other people wanted to use it pretty simply, and like if they wanted to 3D print these and use them as like Monopoly pieces for a game or something like that, it's really cool. Or even like D&D, like little houses that your characters can go into and that kind of thing. So there's like all sorts of applicability to this like project that you've really created, and I think that that's pretty amazing. So props.
Thanks. Yeah, that was what I was going for.
Other thoughts?
It definitely helps that it seems really user-friendly. You didn't overcomplicate things. You made the individual parts easy to maneuver and into scales that could be adjusted as the person needs. And it's like you really captured a lot of the importance of transferring your work to other people in usability and design.
Thanks.
Cool. Jump back to the early stage where you show I really like the way that you laid out the modular pieces. One more back. Yeah, I thought this was great. Yeah, then the one actually before that even too. The one, yeah, I thought this was wonderful. I mean, I really like the way that you've shown. It's really clear what you're showing us here. And like, this is funny because this is the kind of thing like I was saying, we tend to focus on the literal modeling of the objects, but there's so much more to it. You know, how do we present this in a way that makes it clear and appealing? And you guys are getting really close to designing tools, you know, and so much of like, you know, level design and layout is like you're kind of creating these tools that then can be used to modify, you know. I'd like to see you even push it, do some like, why not make some 8-story buildings based on these, or, you know, just to see it, just to kind of see how far you can push this concept, you know, to see what these things look like, you know. But very cool. I think really, really neat. And the designs, I think, of the actual units have a lot of really nice variation in them. That's not obvious. Like the way that second story kind of protrudes out over the first story, I think is a really, 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 really nice touch that gives us some variation that's not just straight down. Because as we're kind of finding, like the more kind of linear we make things, it's kind of a little more boring, and it's nice to add some variation for variation's sake in there. So very cool. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, really nice presentation. Good work. Cool. Who's next? Thanks, Emily.
I can go.
All right, Michaela.
Let's see if I can share my screen properly. Okay, so
Snazzy City, yeah.
Just random. So I am not 3D modeling has never been anything I've tried. So all of this
until now.
Yeah, until now. So it's pretty basic, but so this I just kind of made a simple kind of just a little cutout, if you'd say, just of a little city. So I kind of just wanted to focus on just figuring out how to use Blender and what the heck I'm doing. I still don't know. So, I mean, so I kind of like, these are just some of the little things. I just took a shape, added a shape, and moved things on there, and just made some basic pieces. And then this was kind of just a top-down view. I know I saw like an example of a picture that had kind of like these like squares and plots, and I thought, you know, that'd be fun just to make the pieces and then just kind of set them. And I kind of wanted to make it interesting from the top down. So like just placing them in aesthetically pleasing ways, you would say. So and then just this was my first square I kind of did just to mess around. And that was just like doing the orb and just kind of like that. And then I didn't really do much with the lighting. I was like, oh, I can move this. I can do this. So, I mean, this was kind of cool to look out. I think if I were to do textures and stuff, this would be a cool one to do, just like a city night skyline or something like that. If I really knew what I was doing, so I could definitely come back and do something like that. And then this was just the pictures, just a little bit bigger. So just showing how I placed them, and then just that again, just bigger, just to see it. So yeah, I wish I could have gotten into the texture stuff and tried it time. And
don't worry about it. No, that's great. I mean, I think that looks really cool. Feedback from people?
That is really cool.
It's amazing what you made, despite your claims that you're quote unquote not a 3D model person. That's like amazing.
Yeah.
Just pieces, copy and paste.
You've got a great setup there. Like I could animate in a lot of stuff within that setup that you have.
Mm-hmm. As someone who loves doing textures, I would love to get this model. It's a really well done model.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Also, back to kind of the modularity of this. It's like if you had all these as separate pieces and just had like a way to like plop them down, like anybody could create their like city, and that would be super cool. And I like how you have like these squares that gives it like some direction, so that it's not like completely and utterly random, but like so it's definitely really cool. And you know, like Miles kind of has been mentioning, like every single camera angle you choose with the city is going to look completely different because,
Yeah.
so that's just really cool. So there's enough diversity, but also enough simplicity where it won't like overbear your computer, but
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Definitely had the fan turn on a few times.
Yeah, I think it turned out really kick-ass. I mean, I think that the city blocks are really, really cool. And
Thank
like, if you should go back and show us the overview, the top view of the city block.
Yeah,
City
this
blocks,
is
that
how
was
I was
great.
looking at it.
Man, that's so cool. I mean, look at all the variation you're getting
Mm-hmm.
out of those pieces. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, that really is like, that's it right there. And I think what I was excited about is like, I really want to write like a tool that would like use this, kind of to generate city blocks, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, well, I think this is great. Like what you did with it is really, really effective and really powerful. And like what you're saying about like, well, I don't really know how to do much in Blender. It's like, well, you do now, first of all. But secondly, like, yeah, it's not necessarily about learning 50,000 things all at once, that you really got the essential idea down very strongly with this. So I'm super excited about it, because it's not about, learning really complicated tools right away.
Mm-hmm.
But you made a really complicated, really cool scene, out of this. So that's great. Yeah. Yeah, very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, really nice illustration of the concept. If you go back to your opening shot, and again, I would say the same thing. I'd like you guys to add in some of the narrative that you're talking to us about. Add it in after the fact, even. Like even if you put it in at the end or at the beginning or something, just kind of a little bit of written summary of the thing, because you guys are saying some really smart things about your work. And I don't think we tend to give that enough value because when it comes to doing, if you're going to work with people or applying for jobs and that kind of thing, being able to talk about your work is probably the most important skill that you have. Not just as like talking of this is my work and this is what I do, but more like as interacting with a workflow or being able to help design a workflow and being able to communicate with people that you're collaborating with. Super important stuff. So if you go back to where you have the layout, I think of the, just go back to your first, I thought this was great. It's like, that's what you did, right? Mm-hmm. And out of that, you do a great job of showing all of these different variations out of that. And I think this is really effective white boxing or gray boxing, whatever you want to call it. Like, because you really kept the model simple. And it's hard to do sometimes, just to keep the model simple and effective and really push it. So I think this is you really did a great job with this. Nice job. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Michaela. Who else?
I guess I'll do it.
All right, Leaf, do it.
Dang.
Dang.
You're just talking about, adding, descriptions to, or like words to our presentation, but just looking at my presentation now, it's more like a gallery.
Okay, cool.
So you're going to have to bear with me to do all that communication.
Well, I think that's what this is for. And that's what our critiques are kind of for, is that like, it's a chance to see our work outside of our own little mind. So then you're like, oh yeah, I could do this or that, or you get good ideas from other people and you just incorporate it into your own stuff. So yeah, really nice. All right, lay it on us.
Very well.
Ooh, yes.
All right. Here's my title screen. My basically my render, and then I added a little bit of a backdrop to it. Oh, it's cut it off at the bottom. Oh my goodness. All right, keep going. All right, so here's my 3D models. This is my first building that I made while completing this project. I have a little schematic of all the verts, like a little vert schematic, and then the texture and the shader all applied to it. Sort of learning how to extrude from a cube, and then also doing the shrinking and then rotation as well, starting to learn that. And then I'd use the Boolean tool for the windows, sort of understanding how you can use that to make your shapes more complex. And then I also created an inner workings to the piece, so there's a little bit of volume to the building as well. All right. My second building I made, sort of simplistic, but more of like focusing on the texture. I found this bricks texture online at pixelbay.com for free images and all that. And then I sort of did a lot of work on the door, sort of trying to get like make the certain boards on the door pop out, and sort of working with like the painting and all that, changing all the coloring and all that. And then my building 3 was more or less figuring out how to extrude multiple parts. So with that sort of gear look at the top, extruding all those pieces at the same time, learning how to do that and making a sort of cylinder sort of shape. And then I went to making a boat, sort of going to, you know, far away from the building cubic design, sort of making an object that has more like cubic and roundedness to it. And then, yeah, having fun with that. And then also like compiling multiple shapes into one. All right. And then I was, I forget who did the landscaping, but I was kind of interested in doing the sculpting sort of part. So this is basically just 2 shapes I collided with each other, sort of made an indent into one of the shapes to create a land, like a landmass with a river. And then I made another shape, put it inside to create the river part, and then changing the materials on that, and then adding a more of a reflective surface to the water.
Right on.
And then I used the dinotopsy or dinoplasty, I forget what it's called, to sort of help make, oh, what was that?
Dinotopo or whatever they call it. That's what they call it in ZBrush. What's it called? Nick, you were the one showing us that. What's it called?
It's Dinotopo.
That's right.
Dynamic topography.
Yeah, all right. But yeah, just learning to do that and figuring out all the sculpting keys with that. And then my finished product, sort of, I played with the light, making a sun, sort of giving it like a nice evening like glow on the surface of the water and all that. And then adding cubes and a bridge to sort of give it a more city feel to the whole piece. And honestly, I thought it was a really cool idea to make it like keep it like polygonal, like how you guys were commenting last time. So I want to keep sort of that look going into the future, and we'll see how it goes.
Right on. Thanks, Leaf.
Let's go back to the title. All right.
Yeah, what do you think, guys?
I definitely like it. I look forward to seeing what you do for polygonal plants and fauna, maybe some animals and people too.
Well, let's see how good I am.
It's not a matter of being good. I think you guys are underestimating your skills. Honestly, you know, I think that it can be, you guys have done such a great job actually of keeping things simple. And that's not because you're bad at modeling. That's actually a design thinking in action. So like thinking about how do you keep making things out of simple geometry, like where it's not about the detail, you know. I think you'll be able to do it. I don't think it'll be that crazy. I was thinking about that with Emily's too. That's something that you could make some little plant things or fences. You can always kind of add stuff to it. Yeah, so I agree with Kitty. Anyway, other people.
There's a whole art style of low poly art.
Yep, I saw a little bit of that.
It has a very like Majora's Mask feel to it.
I was just thinking Link games and all those kind of things. Nostalgic.
Uh-huh.
Now that you say it, now I'm wondering if I kind of thought about it making this.
You probably did. That's one of the funny things, right? Like when you start to take yourself a little seriously, you're like, oh yeah, I was thinking about that. And I'm, like that's what I'm looking at for my source material. So yeah, I'll bet you were. I really like the low poly vibe that you got. And I think it really comes off. I would just question, I think the textures, maybe you're not going to need a lot of textures. I think things can get problematic, when you start to add photo textures into a low poly environment,
I was thinking the same thing. I would either have to go full on with the textures or not.
Yeah, and I'm kind of thinking you can probably just and this is a perfect example of a research question. Is like, how can I keep a low poly vibe, but I still want to break it up a little bit? I think that's a great question. I think that whatever we were Townscaper, that's one of those things that kind of that has a mix, right? It still feels very toy-like, which I think that's what low poly feels like to me, is very toy-like, like a Monopoly or something, which I think is really appealing. And then, when the more photorealistic you get, the weirder it becomes. It kind of becomes, then you're kind of pushing it into crossover into some kind of like you're talking like Fallout or something, or, but just ways that you can kind of bridge the gap between those things, I think is really going to be interesting. And the low poly really works here. But that'd be a good thing to experiment with. It's like just, I love questions that we don't have the answer to, and there might be an answer, but there are probably 50 answers to the question. And then kind of how you bounce around between those poles is why your stuff will end up looking the way it does. Yeah.
I'll figure something out.
Yeah, I think it looks great though. I mean, I love the landscape stuff. I mean, that you're building in based on like kind of Nick's demo. That's really super cool. I love the way the light turned out on this too. I mean, that looks really tasty.
Thanks.
Yeah.
For the textures, one thing you could do is like take a photo texture, but if you have some way to lower the resolution, that will really, like, I feel, nail the aesthetic that is sort of present here of like an old game, like Deus Ex did that, and that game looks awful but great.
Yeah, or maybe like along those lines, like to just what happens if you kind of alpha out the texture so that you get more of the solid color showing up behind it, stuff like that. You can play around with it.
You could just fully embrace the retro aspect,
Yeah.
Alternatively, pixelation would also help.
Yeah. Try some stuff out. Yeah, see what you like, and you can come up with your own weird thing. And it's not to say you could go ahead and just kind of say, well, screw it, I'm going to keep putting these textures on it. And I don't think it looks bad. I don't think that the textures on the kind of Coliseum thing and the tower, I think they look fine. I don't think they look wildly out of place. It'd just be something to experiment with.
All right.
I have another recommendation, is like thinking about your color palette.
Oh yeah.
Like to me, the sky is very distracting.
It kind of should be. I threw it in Photoshop.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out a good way to add a background. I tried to do a backdrop, or try and import a image as a background, but it doesn't render in. I was trying to figure that out, and I was like,
I would render just a composite. I mean, just render to transparent, so you can composite a background in, just so you can kind of play with that idea. Kind of like Mishaya is saying, like where you can play around with different palettes back there and see what looks right. Because I really like the color of the light render, which is very red. And then I think, like Mishaya is saying, maybe that is such an intense red, it kind of overwhelms the green. I don't know. I mean, I kind of like it in one way. But I think if you render it to transparent, you can just throw a bunch of stuff back there and just see and get some feedback on it, and just kind of, you'll get a feel for it.
Yeah.
And then you can figure out how to get it to fit.
The water in the background are almost complementary because the background color to me reads orange.
Mhm.
But I don't know, there's something about the orange, and this is my own personal taste, so if it's not yours, totally fine. The orange and green just they kind of fight with each other in the scene. Like there's not really.
I kind of like it, but I see what you're saying, Mashaya, too. Yeah, I mean, it is a total art direction question. Yeah.
It's totally like up to like personal like preference. So
I do think that adding some fauna along the top of the mountainscape could help kind of break up that harsh line, because I think that might be, it's kind of bothering me a little bit because I like the contrast between the two, but the harsh line makes it a little funky.
If I added a background in Blender, I think it would, tone down that harsh line a lot. So I'll probably play with that a little bit. But yeah, I definitely do want to add something to the landscape because it's just barren. The focal point is basically the cityscape at this point. So I might just add a little bit of something just so it's not totally bland, but not too much to take away from the cityscape. But we'll see how it goes.
have we gone over how to render with transparency?
I think we did once, kind of quickly. Let me see if I put it up in there in the notes or not.
The other thing you could do in Blender is use an HDR. And that way you can move the HDR around in Blender without having to render it out and see what it looks like. But then, of course, you got to find HDRs, which there's a couple of sites that do that. I think one of them is HDR Haven.
You could even just do a image as a plane. Because like there's nothing that has to be, like you could just take this, because I'm assuming you took a photo and then selected and used Photoshop to combine the two.
I grabbed one off of Pixel Bay.
Yeah, so if you just take that and put it as a plane and then you can see it.
All right. Yeah, I wanted to have like something just to appear in the background, like, and I wouldn't have to like move around an object. I was trying to see to do like an actual like background, so like I could take multiple shots without having to move the object around too much.
Let's talk about that next week. Let's do some HDRI, like that's a really good suggestion, or some different planes, that ways we can kind of handle that. That's a really good suggestion. And I'll just show this here. In our notes, there's a tab here on how to render in Blender. And I think this is ours, right? Yeah. And so this just shows like how to, if you want to get a transparent background, doing this up here. And if you guys might have notes to throw in here too. So this is just kind of how to deal with that stuff. Cool. All right, who's next? Very nice. Yeah, these are fun.
I get to go next.
All right, Kitty.
Yes, I would like to stop the other person's screen.
Stop all the down, Sharon. All right.
And I'm gonna show the presentation first, and then I'm got my Blender file up with the different textures that I can show because I did not get a screenshot of that into my presentation. All right, y'all seen that?
Yep.
Good. So I was inspired by some sculptures by Jack Storm. He does a lot of glass work. And I wanted to try and recreate that kind of texture in Blender. So I essentially had to make 2 cubes or objects or whatever I was doing. And I had to scale one down, and then the outside texture got the glass look, while the inside got the wireframe and emissions texture, along with some color ramp and what is it? It's just more textures, but it was the tab and the shading that caught like Bonroy, noise, wave textures. That I can show that later.
Okay.
But it basically, a lot of the shading stuff was done in the shading tab, whereas the objects themselves were just edited in regular mode. And
Really
depending
cool.
on and depending on how you wanted the whole glass thing to look, you could mess around with the roughness, sheens, emissions of the interior wireframe. You could also mess with the size of the wireframe. Oh, please tell me you can't hear my dogs barking.
Oh, they're okay. It just adds a little texture, little audio texture.
Oh, la la la.
Some background noise.
Yeah.
But
People in town.
yeah. I didn't actually put a lot of glass texturing like you see in this image here. I instead stuck with a clear sheen for my city, which I think comes up next. No, it's the organization of shaders. I tried to keep the textures simple, and most of these are just copy and paste with like little differences in terms of the color ramp and the textures used. But that in itself makes it more interesting because then I don't have to do a lot of work in terms of the buildings themselves. Unless I'm editing the walls and frames and stuff like that. I tried to keep my organization into what buildings I was creating so that if a person wanted to use a certain building for a certain place, like a fancy house for like a high-end society kind of plane, and then like different business buildings, they could do that and have them separated. And these are the base materials. Unfortunately, I did not get enough time to UV weight drop plants and pots and little decorations into my city, but I did get most of these stuff, and I am so sad I forgot a lot of doors. I forgot my doors. But essentially, you could take a lot of these base materials and edit them a lot. Like this one here, I cut out these two central pillars, and it basically recreated itself into a long window. You could also edit one of these smaller windows into having two little slits on the side. You could fill in this spot, but basically every piece that I use could be edited slightly so that you could create a new kind of modular piece for your own city if you wanted to.
Ooh.
This is what it currently looks like. What's all glowy and pretty is what I have rendered in and ready with textures and just an example of what a city could look like. And what's drawn in is what I kind of didn't have enough time to do and want to do.
Yeah.
Although I'm really debating on street lights, considering all of this is just central glowing light. And I probably don't need exterior lighting. I was kind of inspired also by Transformers and having a planet with no sun.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool. Whoa.
So now we get to show some pictures. And you can kind of see I was debating on whether or not to have an actual sky-like thing, which I painted myself, or just leaving it black with a couple of little starlights in the background. And my friend, who shall never be named, really wants me to create a Godzilla-like creature in my chroma glass materials. So I really hope to make that one day and just destroy my city for funds.
Cool.
Okay, that is the presentation.
Right on.
I really want to like, if there's like a soundtrack for the images I just saw, like Rainbow Road, Mario Kart soundtrack, but like something wrong with it.
Distorted.
Yeah, distorted Rainbow Road soundtrack with like a camera movement and like everything's vibrating.
I should probably not tell you that I did build a rainbow textured house. Did I?
Oh no, no. This is a good thing. This is good soundtrack.
Oh, good soundtrack. Okay, because
This
I
is-
was
this is
kind of
good.
listening to the Mario Kart music while making this. I tend to listen to a lot of I listen to a lot of music when I'm creating a lot of stuff, so it's like sometimes I build a lot of things based on the music.
That's cool.
Oh no, I got floating
It's very
people.
psychedelic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But it's
so
also
cool.
kind of cool.
Oh yeah,
If you
psychedelic in a good way.
Yeah. But if you've seen Jack Storm's like sculptures, you would understand where the inspiration definitely comes from, because his artwork is really cool.
Throw some imagery in there. Throw some pieces in there. You know, that'd be worth putting in the presentation. You know, as like kind of some of the sources you were looking at and kind of where you took it. That'd be great.
I'll be sure to add that
Yeah.
to the presentation
Yeah,
itself. But for now, I think I will just show you guys the rainbow house.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. Holy shit. That's so amazing.
Yeah, Rainbow Road.
Oh my God, I love it.
Also,
My
like
friend
heat
loves it.
maps.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
I just really love messing with the textures and stuff in Blender. It's so fun.
That is wild. That is really cool. I mean, you really kind of went off into this interesting direction. I mean, I think with these textures is so weird.
Let me see if I can render in all these other things without crashing the computer. Hopefully. Fingers crossed, everyone. There we go. Big office buildings, a lot of floors, a lot of arrays, and a lot of duplications.
Yeah.
Writers' buildings.
That's just really fun.
Oh,
Yeah, I think the more I look at it, the more I enjoy it. Because at first, like, it hits you and you're like, whoa. And then you're like, oh, yeah. And then you start like vibing with it.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
Yeah, we got
At least that's my experience.
Yeah, totally.
It's almost filled with glitter, and every time it like shakes the glitter.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool that way. Either that or like Jello.
Yeah.
Jello. I didn't expect the Jello bit.
Getting like everything in this city is made of like hard candy.
Yeah, like the grow your own like sugar candy or whatever.
Friggin' Jolly Ranchers out here.
It's delicious.
I'd eat the city.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
that's such a crazy, crazy thing. I think it's so interesting how everything has two pieces to it. So you've got the interior piece and the exterior piece. It was really neat to see what you came up with for that. I thought that was really interesting, like the subdividing the geometry and then getting different, the way the material responds to that subdivided geometry. And that I thought that was just really interesting. And very, very cool art direction. You know, it's such a strange, you know, place to go with it, but I really dig that.
Oh no, I hope you guys don't see that. I just realized there's an error.
Wow.
Nope, not showing.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, I don't think we're going to notice it.
I'm not going to point it out, and you guys are not going to know.
For absolutely no reason. I was expecting like a big flashing red source error, like you're in the source engine. How do we get that in Blender?
I did crash my computer rendering a couple of these things until I remembered I can just go like this and render quicker without having to hurt anything.
Right. Cool.
No, the error is showing.
Yeah, very nice though. Very cool. Very cool. Thanks, Kitty.
While you guys make your comments, I'll pull up some of Jack Storm's art so that
Yeah,
you guys
cool.
can
Great.
see
Let's
it.
check it out. Yeah. So, what? Any other ideas or thoughts? Or Rainbow Road is where I've most felt like a dad. When I'm falling off yet again on Rainbow Road into the void, like in Mario Kart, I just really felt my old man status. I'm like, God, I suck at this game. Is anyone else traumatized by Rainbow Road or just me?
Oh,
Well, as a
absolutely.
kid,
No,
I had the Mario Kart version where like you had like two players, and so like one person could be in the back just throwing items, and the other person was driving. And I refused to drive on Rainbow Road.
Dude, I don't know what y'all are complaining about. I was a boss at Rainbow Road.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
Boss.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, and if only you knew right at the beginning where to turbo and jump off so that you could just do the cheat and fall.
Exactly. I did not have that ability. That's for sure.
I will be proud to say that I actually did not use that cheat. Never did. Never even knew that existed. Now I have
These are
to
really
find
cool. You know, but it's interesting, Kitty. I mean, how different your work is from these, even though I can see how you got the inspiration from it. But it really has a very different effect, which I think is great. I mean, I like the fact that you could show this and we'd be like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I get it. But then the effect is really something quite different. You know, what you ended up with is really quite different from this. But I think these are really interesting to show as source material because it encapsulates that idea of kind of things within things and then refraction, you know, and all that. I think that's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Neat.
Well, I think the way I could actually create this in Blender is by actually sculpting it myself.
Yeah.
But that would have taken so much time, and I would have had to actually watch his process of making these.
Yeah, I think it's just very different. I think you came up with something really interesting. But I love that. I mean, I think that's where influences and source material can be really a cool part of a presentation, is where you're showing us something that you started with, but you end up really taking it to a different place. So I think that's like the idea of creating a city out of this, I think is a really cool idea, you know.
Should I add a playlist to the songs that I was listening to as well?
No, I think that
Yeah,
we
I
should all be
would say that.
shameless about that. Like, go ahead and just throw it all in there. It's all part of the fun, you know. Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks, Kitty. Very nice.
Wait,
All right,
what's
who
a
else has-
Gmod error?
If we don't get to everyone today, we can finish up on Tuesday. So, you know, we can, or some people are less ready to go today. You can take till Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's your lucky day. And then, but who's ready to go now? Who's got some stuff to?
I can go.
All right, the real Miles.
Let's see. Okay. So I kind of just wanted to talk about like how easy it can be to make some kind of like interesting looking buildings, especially with like Greek architecture. It's, you know, it really all comes down to, to like, this is it. These are the only pieces that are in use, and how we can, you know, make these interesting, intricate pieces to make a plethora of, you know, pretty neat looking buildings. So first there was the pillar. And so you start with two objects, the circle and the cylinder. And for the cylinder, all you have to do is shrink it along the Z, and then duplicate it for the top and bottom. But the like actual column itself is you take a circle and you shrink 4 verts so you can kind of get the shape that you want. And all you have to do is use the screw modifier, and it'll shoot that bad boy right up. It twirls it for you, and just slap them together, and you know that's it. And so, I mean, the screw modifier is like super easy to use. If you change the height of it by changing screw, so it's 10.9 meters high, and then the angle allows you to kind of dictate how much it turns. And so just by using like a simple circle, you can get really cool and intricate looking pillars super quick.
Love it.
And then the stairs are also pretty dang easy. I mean, you just start with a plane, you extrude the step, use an array modifier, and then when you're done, you just close off the faces by, you know, selecting like edge loops and then hitting F for the face. You might be thinking like, you know, why use an array modifier if you could just use a plane, you know, edge loop it to get the steps and then extrude them up. Simply put, I mean, it's, oh, and here's kind of like how to do it. So you just get rid of the X factor and then change the Y and Z. But you would want to do this because it makes very long stairs very easily. So you can like it would take forever to do this any other way than an array modifier. And you can meet God far faster. And then here's the like little basins that was kind of holding those light sources. And again, I mean, it uses like 3 pieces. So you have your cylinder and a cone. And for the cone, all you're going to do is like flip it around and then like kind of flatten it along the Z, so it kind of makes more of like a bowl. And then with the cylinders, you just make one tall one and one small one, and then slap them together and add a light. And it's, I mean, they don't look great right now, but in your render, they don't look bad. And so here's kind of like how you can slap them together, and even like a side-by-side comparison of what Eevee, the rendering, can do and what Cycles can do. So Eevee is going to give you like kind of game engine-y-esque light, which doesn't look bad, but Cycles is going to, it's going to bring your renders to like a whole nother level. It takes a lot longer, but I mean, you can kind of clearly see where that detail is going. And so just with those like really simple pieces, like you can make really interesting and intricate like buildings and pieces of art just by like, stretching them out a little bit or angling them. So it's really interesting. And one thing you can see here that I didn't really talk about is like this front piece. And that's actually also really easy to do. All you have to do is you start with the plane, you shrink the top two verts super close together, like basically a triangle. But in order to get those edge loops, you need enough faces.
Tricky.
Yeah, so I'm too stupid to understand how to do it with actual triangles, so I use squares. And then you just add, you add your loops and you just extrude those faces down, and you're gonna get, that like really quick look, and it looks nice. So this is all just like super easy stuff to do. Cool. And you can end up with a building like this, or you can, make far more intricate and interesting things than I did.
Well, I mean, for the triangle thing, couldn't you just like, I don't know, subdivide the thing a whole bunch, extrude those down, and then merge the top vertices together?
I have no idea, because I have no idea how triangles subdivide.
Oh.
There you go. Try it out. It's the Miles
I don't
challenge.
know. That's just the hacky way that I would have done it, I guess.
Blender absolutely despises triangles. If it's not a quad, Blender hates it.
Well, that's really smart, because you had to subdivide it the way that you did it. You're totally right. I think that's the smart way to do it. And then I guess after the fact, if you really wanted to, you could probably merge all those verts. I guess, yeah, kind of. You'd have to be a little careful. You'd want to keep the top ones separate from the bottom ones, but you could probably do it after the fact. But I think that's really smart, because what that let you do was subdivide it as much as you wanted, and then do the extrusions, and that's going to be cleaner, I think, than doing it with triangles. So, and then you could, I guess, at the very, very end, convert it to triangles.
Yeah, okay, so subdividing a triangle, kind of, here, let me show.
Yeah, subdividing a triangle is not great, I don't think.
Let me show Blender instead. So this is what subdividing a triangle gives you. So it gives you just smaller triangles.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't really do.
Yeah, it's trying to
do.
Oh no, sorry. What I meant was like like taking the square, subdividing that so that you have your lines, and then merging those top vertices to.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you could also do that. Let's.
Like just subdividing like half of the what's the word of the edges, like oh geez, 1 second.
Yeah, how about you? Because going through another medium of a person, things get kind of goofy.
Show us, Andrew.
So I'm gonna have to open a whole new like Blender file. 1 second.
Well, Andrew's opening up that Blender file. The colors and the lighting design is just so beautiful.
Yeah.
When I saw it on like Discord, it was just like, it looks so nice, and like it just makes everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, let's have class there next week. Let's just hang out.
Can we? That would be great.
Yeah, let's hang out inside of the temple.
Actually, like bringing that into Unity and making it. Actually, oh wait, I can do that. Well, I totally know how to make that so you can go to VR with it.
Cool.
I actually know how to do that. But that as a VR environment would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, go nuts. I would love to be able to explore the weird thing that I made in VR.
Yeah. Only problem is I don't have any VR equipment at my home. It's all at SOU.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
So the way I was thinking was like if you go into edit mode, so like these two edges, subdivide it, just however many times you want. Do that. Take your verts and just merge them.
Hey, that also works.
What happens when you extrude those? Does it work right? Go up the other way. Yeah. No. Damn. No, that works.
Yeah. That's just the way I would have done it.
Yeah. That works. Nice. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, but that's key is subdividing on the quad first, and then you could merge them there. Like that worked out great. That's cool.
Yeah.
Good thinking, guys. I like it. That's using the old, what do you call it, noodle or something. All right, very nice.
I just thought of something. We couldn't do VR, but it would be very much possible to take, if everyone has FBX files, Unity's free, especially for students. You can actually put that FBX file into, you'd have to make sure your like model was, what's the right word? Optimized, but everyone, you could technically put your model into Unity and get this character from the Unity store that's free called Ethan. And basically, once you got into it comes with controls, but messing around, so it's more like you could actually explore your environment as a little character.
Cool. That'd be fun. Yeah, I thought about, we've done that in the past in the 3D class where we've gone into VR or we've gone into a game engine. So that's something we could also explore. If people are interested in that for kind of final project stuff, that definitely could be something we explore. Yeah, it's kind of a little more advanced of a process because you have to learn another piece of software. But if people are interested, let me know. Cool. All right. Well, let's see. We've got a few minutes left. Who else? Anyone else want to go today?
I can go.
All right. I hear two people. Who was the other one?
That was me as well.
And Ryan? Okay, so Jorge and then Ryan.
There's time.
Okay. And who else wants to go today? Angel.
Yeah.
There's a different language. Okay, Jorge, Ryan, Angel.
I am currently cooking something, so if y'all hear some sizzling, it's
delicious.
Can y'all see my presentation?
Yeah.
Cool. So I don't have a name for my city right now, so I just
lean into it. I like it. Like, we shall discover the nameless city.
Yeah, that should be something.
There you go. You got it. There you go.
There you go. Still working on it, like I mentioned. Some of the basic shapes that I used in order to construct my city are cylinders, trapezoids, triangles, rectangles, and that kind of stuff. There you go. So I first started with this pyramid. My inspiration came from my altar since Dia de los Muertos is coming up like this Sunday, I believe, or this weekend. And then I thought about it. I'm like, might as well create something related to a pre-Hispanic culture. So that's what I did. It's a 3-level pyramid, and it's based on my altar. Like I said, the regular altars are either 2, 3, or 7 levels, and 3 represents the sky, the earth, and also the underworld. Each culture has its own representation of what the underworld means. So there's that. So that's why I decided to make like a 3-level pyramid. So that's like the main temple / the main attraction of my city. And then there's another angle from another side. I really had a lot of fun making this, especially like with booleans. Booleans, I had a good time with those. I mean, not booleans, arrays. I love arrays. I had a lot of fun making the steps. Now I was thinking, who will inhabit this place? And I started to think about power structures, since each society has its own, like, power system structure. So I decided to do nobles / warriors, which are in Aztec or Mexica mythology or culture. They're supposed to be at the top, while artisans are lower, and then like regular folk are at the very bottom. So I started with that. I started with the noble / warriors home, which is again like a 3 3 big space homes with a big entrance in the middle, and the roofs are pyramids, again, with 3 levels representing the sky, the earth, and the underworld. That's the front of it. The back of it is right here with a big window in the back, and then a hallway that connects all the 3 buildings together, and 2 doors in the back. I was gonna put some like crops areas outside, but then I did not have a lot of time to go forward with that. So there's that. Now the artisan's home, or artisan. I don't know how to pronounce it, but y'all get
Artisan, I think, but that's fine.
It's artisan.
There you go. Thank you so much. You learn something every day. This is how it looks so far. The front, it has 3 tents, and those tents are supposed to be for like, you know, Monday market, for them to put their crafts. So that's what I did. If you take out the 3 like tents, you see this main building, which is the picture to the right, which is where they usually do their crafts, and it has like a little chimney up top. So, you know, if there's doing some ceramics or something, the heat will go out the top and leave their house. This is how the sideway looks like. There's a hallway that connects to the big house, like the big room of the house. And there's a back door and 2 windows, because, you know, fresh air and lighting and all that. And then last but not least is the regular houses. So it's really regular. It's nothing like big compared to the other ones. Just, you know, building. Again, three decorations at the top, which represent each level, and then 3 in the back and a tent. So how it looks in the back, just a giant window. And the textures for all of the buildings are rock-based textures. So a lot of them do follow the same pattern that is right here. The only difference is the scale. Let me move this really quick because I cannot see something that I need to look at. There you go. Okay, so the only difference from all of them are either the scale, detail, the roughness of the material, which I think I have some pictures of it. Yes, I do. So this is what it looks like so far. So had a lot of fun picking the colors of it. I was thinking of like, you know what colors does each category or each specific level, if we speak like levels, or I guess society, will be. Blue has been related to royalness and like high status, so that's why I made the houses blue. And I decided to go with yellow on the rooftop to represent kind of like the sun. For the artisans, homes is red to represent like ceramics and, you know, like red vases and that kind of stuff. And for the regular folk, I decided to go with like this dark brown / bluish to represent the pyramid, which is kind of like grayish color, and like the stairs are blue. I forgot to use the Boolean for the doors for the regular folks in this picture, but I did fix it. Did not take a picture of it again, but just an FYI. This is how it looks like from one side of it, the pyramid in the background, and like the noble / warrior homes right there. Then we have like this. I try to do like this really artistic shot, but it didn't work. But this is basically to represent like the market section with all the tents outside where people just walk around and, you know, do shopping. And this is what it looks like for the really regular places or the regular folks' home. And some extra that I did was think about lighting and how that would be represented in that like specific setting. So I decided to do like this fire torches made out of this coniferous tree called ocote, which is an indigenous or used for indigenous rituals. It's right here. It looks like this. It is animated. I don't have a GIF of it because I don't know how to make GIFs, but here's a picture of it. And here are the notes that I used. I followed this tutorial that I posted on the Discord on how to make fire. Right. And basically what you do, if I remember correctly, I added the sphere and then I added like this smoke particle to it. And then I went into notes and I did all of this. I don't understand how notes work that well. So that's why I kind of follow a tutorial and spaced out and just follow what they did.
Cool.
And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. And that's what I have so far.
Wow.
I think something that I'm working on is, again, do more other like style torches to light up the city and like a background and an environment as well. Because right now it's just a plain houses and a pyramid. And that's what I have.
Cool.
It's so like fleshed out. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Do you know how flippin' amazed I am and how much backstory you put into this place? How much work you did in the research to get something accurate to your culture? Do you know how excited I am to actually learn about this culture because what you've created? This is amazing.
Period. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of the stuff that I've been doing recently, a lot of my work in other classes is based on like my indigenous identity because I'm still trying to learn of like my background in that because there's this whole problem of European and African and native roots mixed together, and that's what like a lot of Mexicans are. So it's difficult to find your like heritage. So that's what I've been doing a lot with my work. So that's why a lot of this is based on like Mexica ideology and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's great. I agree with Kitty. I mean, I think that the historical fact you're crossing over and doing this kind of historical research is really inspiring, really cool. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, great forms. I really like the forms here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have one little bit of a complaint though. The artisan buildings, if you're looking for a clay texture, you want to kind of add a bit of an orange tint to it instead of sticking to straight red.
Yeah.
Because if I remember what my mom told me about the clays in the area, because she's a mixed artisan with a lot of background, a lot of clays are mostly orange or brown with some red tints.
Mm-hmm.
So you may want to add that into the coloration. Other than that, I'm blown away, mind blown.
I should have fixed that because I was thinking of orange as well, but then I finished all my project last night, so I was too lazy. I just wanted to go to bed, so I'm like, this should be fine.
Big mood.
Yeah, I really love your model. One thing when considering making textures is actually looking at the science behind how light interacts with the texture you're making.
Mm-hmm.
And so finding, I don't remember the technical terms because I know enough to kind of do it, but it's kind of hard to explain. Like light hits clay differently than it will hit stone.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually go into your material settings and change how the light interacts with your materials.
I can actually explain that a bit better.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a matter of material use. Like in my clay city, I had to think a lot about the refractions and the light bouncing off in the glass and how it would look cut up. With you have to think about how the objects themselves would absorb the colors.
Yeah.
Because clays and stones don't really reflect light as much as we see in the images here. So you kind of want to dull down the reflection a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you would do that in the program itself, but it's definitely something you want to catch if you want to get a more stone-like texture, because stone does not really reflect unless it's like wet with rainwater.
I think you could like
I can
kind
actually
of do something like that with like normals.
It's less than the normals, and actually, so the principal BDSM. Okay, that's funny. BDSM.
You're not the only one. Yeah, everyone's done.
But it's actually within the principle of BDSF, and because like Kitty did a great job of explaining what I was trying to say, but I can actually explain how you do it. So like, of course, there's add-ons, but like you can change how the light refracts all within the principle BDSF. So you're just messing around with those sliders until you get the right amount of light refraction and that. And I remember like I learned a lot of this off of just like a skin tutorial, which you might want to look like. It won't apply for your clay, but like whenever someone's making a texture or a material for skin, they often talk a lot about how light interacts, and they'll go over into a lot of depth within the principle of BDSF controls on how to get light to interact with objects. Because with skin, light bounces around inside the texture, and you can just do that within the principle BDSF. So just try messing around with the sliders, because it's not really a node, it's more of
Yeah, we'll do a second round on that. I think we only really got into the most primitive version of this, so we can do this next week. We can kind of get into more detail on those for sure.
Blender calls it roughness. So if you turn the roughness up on the principled BSDF, it'll reflect less light. There are a couple of other things that affect it, but most of those in the principle of BSDF are for metallic objects.
Yeah, we'll
But
get into lighting too. Yeah.
yeah, roughness is what affects how much light is reflected. And if you're using a PBR texture, they're often called gloss, and gloss is the opposite of roughness. So
I was just thinking back onto my glass and thinking, how did I not get it to not shine? But yeah, roughness and gloss are definitely the textures that you don't want in a in a rocky face, but you would want it in a reflective window.
Yeah,
Yeah, very
I
cool.
gonna have to be work on and then figure out and experiment with that.
Yeah. Yeah, but
It's
very
amazing
cool. I
so
mean, you got a
far.
lot of stuff here as far as the modular city. It'll be fun to see you kind of build this out, you know, and like I think you've got all the pieces here for really that's going to be really nifty. Yeah, just love the sculpting on it. You know, I mean, just the forms I think are really satisfying, big, solid, interesting forms that you've got there. So yeah, very very cool. Well, thanks, Jorge. Well, geez, we're running out of time. Sorry. But I think it's important. You guys have been doing a lot of work, so I want to make sure that we have time to really get into these and give them some time for you to do your presentation. So I don't want to get into a huge rush about this. So let's get everyone else on Tuesday. So if you can forgive me for my lack of time management here, but it's good. I mean, these were really good conversations. So I think it's just going to take a long time because we've got a lot of people in here doing a lot of cool stuff. So let's get everyone else on Tuesday. But you know, I think that let's keep these projects going. So even if you presented today, like you probably got ideas, you know, you can go back in, like we said, you can kind of keep morphing the presentations around. You can add things to the presentations. You can take things out. You can edit it. You can kind of clean it up. That we're getting a lot of really good development at this point. And we'll talk next week about options that we can take as far as like the future weeks of this class. But I think that this is a really good start. I mean, you guys have really gotten a lot of work into this. And I think that like learning how to cultivate that so that you really come up with a satisfying end product is going to be our goal. So we'll talk about different options. But already I've gotten a ton of ideas for like kind of new topics that we can cover in class. And if people have ideas for other things that you want to cover in the class, go ahead and think about it and jot them down. You can even throw them into, I'll just put a little space here. I did this for animation and it was not particularly well subscribed, but who knows? Maybe you guys are different. Maybe it'll be different. But so I'll just, here I've got the presentation URLs and I'll make a little box here for, you know, future topics, 3D, and just go ahead and if there's anything you're really interested in or curious about, go ahead and chuck it in here. And that'll give us some time to plan out what we want to do. So yeah, go ahead and take a couple minutes if you want, and like if there's anything that's kind of eating away at you, or you're thinking about it, anything that came up today. So yeah, if you didn't go today, we'll get you on Tuesday. If so, just keep working. And for people that presented today, keep working too. You know, keep go ahead and refining and developing. And you might be making new stuff. Maybe you've got a whole new idea for a thing you want to start doing. That's fine. It doesn't have to be built on the same thing that you're doing. But I think you guys have and I think Jorge's was a great one to actually conclude with today, because you could really get the sense of they're building a world, you know, and so we're all building worlds in a sense out of these little pieces, and that there's so much like the backstory I thought was interesting, and you kind of think about what else what else could I show about my world? What are some other aspects? Or what happens if I go under the surface? Or what happens if I go up into the mountains? Or what happens if I go out onto the lake? Or whatever. What other things? Or if I get on a plane and fly to another continent on my world, what would I encounter there? Or, you kind of start to think about that too, if that's something that might be kind of fun. Or just keep building out the stuff that you're already working on. So yeah, very cool stuff today, guys. All right. Well, we'll just leave it there then. And so either keep working. Yeah, well, in any event, keep working on what you're working on. And we'll check in on Tuesday. We'll get the rest of the folk up here, and we'll roll from there. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Cheers, guys. I'll hang out for a minute. I have to take off at 3:30, but I'll hang out I'm here for a little bit. So cool
stuff, everybody. I'll see you all next week.
All right. See you.
Bye. Enjoy your Halloweens.
Oh yeah, it's Halloween. Oh, crazy.
Don't get too wasted.
All right. Woohoo. Last one.
I'm the last one.
Oh.
Thank you for the class.
Yeah, that was fun. That was
sorry if I talked too much.
No,
it's discussion portions. Yeah.
We like talking. Yeah, it's great. No, it's good. This was lively. I really enjoyed this. This was fun. Yeah, people were a little more on today, so than the animation class.
Yeah, I was just too depressed in the morning. I was like, I don't feel like talking.
Cool. What are you doing this weekend?
This weekend, work. I'm doing a giveaway campaign for my job.
Okay.
And I'm the one making and planning and executing, and it's just kind of exhausting.
Yeah. Well, that's why they call it a job, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Someone's got to do it.
And then I recently found out that the times that it was giving me for like activity was in Montreal time. And I was like, oh, that's why all my posts are underperforming. I'm posting at like 3 a.m. there when I thought it converted. It didn't.
Well, that's what they call experience. Now you've got experience.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, God, no.
That's good.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah, well, it was fun. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Miles. Have a
All
good
right.
day.
Cheers, Mashai. All right. We'll have a good weekend and catch you next week.
Yeah.
All right. Don't work too hard. Okay. See ya. Bye.
See ya.